Welcome back to InnerTV. My guest is Judy Carroll, author of 3 books, and today we're here to discuss her latest book, Extraterrestrial Contact on Earth, A Lesson in History. That's a heavy book, Judy.
It is, Althea. Even the title of it is a little bit hard to remember, isn't it?
Yes. What is it about? Why have you written it?
Oh, my goodness. Okay. It's a non-fiction account of the history of ET visitation on Earth, going back millions and, in fact, billions of years. And it actually contains detailed description of the development of 2 separate Earth-human species who are still impacting on Earth at this time. There's actually been 6 Genesis events on Earth, starting with the fish people, going back billions of years ago when the planet was covered by water. Then there was the ant or insectoid people, who are ancestors of the Greys, the lizard people, the bird people, the Sasquatch people, who were an earlier mammalian human species who are still, of course, around, and finally modern-day Earth humans. And this history is covered in detail in a book entitled The Sasquatch Message to Humanity, written by a fellow by the name of Sunbow, taken from the words of the Sasquatch elder by the name of Camus. And I've actually quoted quite a lot of Camus in my book, with permission, of course, from Sunbow, because he goes into this history of Earth going back billions of years in great detail. The 2 human cultures that I mainly cover in my book are the lizard people and modern-day humanity. The lizard people, of course, were developed by the draconians from a dinosaur species that was on Earth back then, and modern-day humans were developed from mammalian primate stock. But, of course, we all have off-planet genetics anyway. I give information also on the different creator or assistant creator races that were involved in the work, what they look like, and where interference occurred. The planet was actually hijacked by a group of the lizard people going back quite a long time. And they're the ones who are around now, known as the Illuminati and the elites and the Cabal. There's a number of different names for them. I was actually asked to write this book going back in 2011, the end of 2011, after I'd written my other 2 books. They'd just been released in 2011, and I had a conscious recall of being present at a meeting up on our ship where they were discussing this hijacking of the planet that had happened and what we can all do to contribute to helping the situation, which is what the mission is all about down here. And a suggestion was put forward to me, because by then I was a published author, and they said, well, how about you write a 3rd book covering the history and hijacking and all that going back there and what's going on now. So I started putting it down on paper, and then in early 2013 my publishers actually suggested a 3rd book on Earth's history in connection with ET contact. So the Upstairs family must have been working on them at the same time. Maybe they were present at the meeting, I don't know. There are descriptions of the different star groups with a lot of information on the Greys and the Zetas, as well as the various reptilian races and others who are responsible for seeding life on Earth. I also explore the concept of collective consciousness and free will, and the direction in which science needs to go to understand ET technology. And also I go into the basis of the biblical Genesis story. I've included information on the present-day hybrids, who's creating them and why. Details are given on the ones I refer to as the repterans, or the controllers, who are deliberately blocking human evolution on Earth. They're also deeply involved in the field of UFO and ET investigation, both as researchers and debunkers. So there's quite a lot of information in it.
Yes, it is. It's a detailed read. In fact, when we talk about things like fish people, ant people, lizard people, I think unless you have that kind of memory going back, it could seem so bizarre. I remember as I first started waking up and was guided on my first sacred travel trip, or one of them, I was in Mexico, and I remembered coming from the sea. I went through the birthing process, and I hit the land, and my cellular memory came back of being and participating as an Olmec. And the Olmecs were believed that they came from the ocean.
Right, yes. Oh, that ties in with the African, West African, what do they call the Mali people or something, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with their stories of the Nomo from Sirius. That ties in with that.
Yeah, it's like we all start to remember these things, but for myself, it wasn't until I was there and, getting the full impact of the land and the codes coming back, but I remembered knowing that I was coming from the sea and having, of course, a different breathing apparatus, and then coming back in and walking on this land, and it developing in a new way. So, it's like in the ant people as well. I mean, I can tie right into that easily. So I think we just keep coming and cycling in and out during these various epochs as Earth ascends. So you mentioned that Greys are a creator race. What do you mean by this?
Well, basically, it's the work that we carry out. We also carry out work terraforming planets and adapting species to planetary environments. I actually have a very clear memory of my past grey life doing this, carrying this work out, going to planets, taking samples, bringing them back home, checking them out. For example, if a species is becoming extinct on a planet, we will collect genetic material or sometimes living specimens and take them back and try to adapt them to another environment so that nothing ever becomes extinct. It always keeps going in a higher form. Basically, it's helping species up the ladder to keep the evolutionary process going. So that's how we work as a creator race. Basically creating life forms and planets and adapting the two of them together, and also working on the soul level to assist with the process of evolution.
Then how do hybrids work in all this?
The hybrids are a way of adaptation. There's quite a large hybrid program going on down here. As I'm sure you're aware, the starseeds are the result of this, because the planetary changes are happening now. Because of the Earth changes, planet Earth stepping up from fourth world consciousness to fifth world consciousness, which simply means that the vibrational frequency of the planet is increasing. Now, for humans to be able to remain on this planet, they have to be in sync with the vibrational frequency of their planet. And so we're creating or helping to create a higher frequency race by changing the DNA of people to assist them, and also bringing in more off-planet genetics to assist them to begin vibrating at a higher frequency. So this is what the hybrids are all about. The negative ones down here are creating their own hybrids, so everyone's busy with it at the moment. But yes, that's basically why we're creating them.
What's the ET view, or what's the Zeta view on God?
Oh, look, yes, this is very, very interesting. Many ET cultures, including the Zetas and Greys, refer to God as source or oneness. All the higher evolved ETs approach life from a spiritual rather than a religious perspective. There's a great difference between spirituality and religion. Spirituality is a state of consciousness, a more expanded conscious awareness that can only be attained over the span of many lives. This is part of the evolution in the human kingdom, which isn't exclusive to planet Earth. It spans the whole universe. The higher evolved ETs, and very much including the Greys, are able to consciously access these higher energy frequencies. So we don't have to depend on religious faith and belief in the existence of a supreme energy source. We're able to tap into and perceive it in full conscious awareness. We're also consciously aware that all of us are an intrinsic part of this supreme source at soul level. There's no separation in the great reality. This is why we refer to God as oneness. We're all part of this same God consciousness, and it permeates the whole universe on multidimensional levels. God could be thought of as the consciousness of the universe. That's the way I love to think of it.
I have very similar views as you. I was not raised with religion, and although I was fascinated by people's religion, all those rules and things, they were always constantly being told what to do. Even as a child, I was just fascinated. It was like, tell me more. But I never believed in it. I always knew, nor did I adopt it. I always knew that source was my being, and that oneness was everything. So there wasn't a sense of someone's differences as being I wasn't fighting them. I was in sacred neutrality about them. And then at the same time with my God consciousness, I was never disconnected from God. So I grew up maybe experiencing life a little differently than most humans, but for myself there was never a disconnect.
Yes. That's quite funny. You talk about that, Althea. Different people coming from different perspectives. In my case, because I'd cut off my grey consciousness, I felt this great void in my life as a child, something I was searching for and I didn't know what it was. And I was actually educated in a Catholic convent. And so for my younger years, when I had lost my connection with the Grey family, I actually found a lot of comfort in religion. But then when I got into my teens, I started questioning it because my grey consciousness was starting to bleed through, and I was starting to remember past lives and reincarnation and things like that. And I couldn't sort of relate the two, the religious view of we just have one life, there's no such thing as reincarnation, and what I was actually experiencing in my own consciousness. And that was when my awakening to the Greys started coming in. But it was funny because I always yearned for that sort of connection back to source, which is interesting.
We have a kind of a flip side going on because I had the exact opposite. I think yours is probably a little bit more common when I meet people. They definitely feel cut off or wanting that reconnection back, whereas I always had it. And even though I was taken up on ship even in my high school years, I never thought anything about it. I just knew that I was going to go up on ship and, things were going to happen. So, but at the same time, as a child, I absolutely knew, and we're talking early primary years, that I was not getting off this rock anytime soon, and that, they were there, but they weren't going to save me.
No.
Come and pick up Althea, I'll tell you that. It was a long haul.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I know.
So I didn't even go into pity party, even though I wanted to. I knew that was Ollie. I just, I was connected. My Stargate was open. I could come and go and feel, and so it was just a matter of, kind of for myself. In all honesty, I was kind of pissed off.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I don't know which is the better way to remember or not to remember. Because to remember, I don't think I could have coped with that. I really don't. Full marks to you for being able to.
I went through my dark night of the soul at 10, so I didn't last very long.
Yes.
It's like that to be able to cope with Earth realities, and it's very difficult. And I do think that that's why there is a greater veil for many people until they can emotionally step into sovereignty, so that when things like this happen, they know that one, they're immortal. There's nowhere to go. It's always you're always gonna come back, and not just here, but everywhere. And that and that this is an experience, and there's nothing to fight against that experience, pleasant or otherwise.
Yes, for sure. And it's really funny because, people who are into it like we are and who understand it, and a lot of the interviewers come up with this, they say, why don't the ETs just land on the White House lawn? Okay, for people like us, we understand, we'd be okay with it. That's all cool, great, family coming back. But the majority of people down here are not into it. They would absolutely freak out, and there's no way that they would do a thing like that, because it would cause too much trauma for too many people.
Now, you've had lifetimes where you were in your greater Zeta form coming to Earth and working with Aboriginals, haven't you?
Yes, I have, yeah. Yes, the tribal people are okay with it, or the majority are. Not all, but the majority are. But
modern... case because the Pleiadians have worked with American Indians and, of course, throughout other cultures. And I know the Zetas and also with Aborigines, but the Zetas were working with the Aboriginal people. And the Aboriginal people, I do agree with you on that tribal, they have that tribal connection, that understanding that they came from the stars. So there's not this instantaneous denial or fear factor when it comes to exchanges.
Exactly. They're far more open to it. I mean, they've been brought up with it in their culture. It's really interesting because my family background, even in this life, there's some Romany in my family, not just the last life. And I had connections with the Romany people in this life. And I remember once asking one of our Romany elders, when I was getting memories of the Greys and I didn't know who they were, when I was very, very young, and I drew a picture of one once and showed it to one of the elders, and I said to him, who are these people who are visiting me? And his answer was, this is the form we take when we pass from this life.
Wow. So he even understood that, that they had a cosmic relationship.
Yeah,
cosmic
that's right.
Form, beyond the skin suit.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I would ask you this, at this time of change, what should people be focusing on in their lives to make the transition easier from a Zeta point of view?
Oh, look, definitely. Understanding from the core of their being that we're all one and choosing love over fear. This is very much a Armageddon experience that planet Earth's going through at the moment. And it's not to do with God and Satan and all this sort of stuff. It's choosing love over fear. Well, if we put it into Christian terms, I guess that is love and God and Satan. But yeah, it's not an outer battle; it's an inner battle. And the Armageddon thing that's talked about in the Bible is actually mentioned in a lot of religions under different names, and that's what it is. It's an inner battle between love and fear, and choosing love is the key that people need to do at this time. And remembering that we're all one. It's not a them and us thing. And this applies whether we're talking about Earth cultures or whether we're talking about interdimensional or interplanetary cultures. We're all one.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is, we're either going to choose love or fear, and you're going to experience what you're choosing.
Exactly, because that's the other key thing people have to remember, and quantum physics is starting to prove this. We create our own reality. Exactly. It's a reflection in the planet of what the humanity is going through, because in a way humanity is the consciousness of the planet. And so therefore these things are going to, by the way people are thinking. Exactly.
I was talking to a group, a channeler from Orion, just a beautiful woman, very kind soul. And I said to her, when she started to speak her light language, I said, it feels like mantis energy, just very pure, very beautiful, very loving. And then she said, Gaia is going to be fine. It's us that they're worried about, in terms of to really stretch your skin to eliminate these lower vibrations, which you speak about in your book, about 6 emotions that humans are privy to: love, sympathy, grief, anger, fear, and joy. And in your book, you really outline each of these emotions are meant to be felt, including anger, fear, because you can do choice. And talk a little bit about how those emotions are also experienced on the cosmic level.
Yes, well, what we've got to remember is all emotions are energy. That's all an emotion is. It's an energy, okay? So when we start talking about higher vibrational frequencies, we're talking about higher energies. Now, I'll just take the Greys as an example because they're the ones that I feel most comfortable with. At Grey level, I don't know what memories you have of being up there, but I have quite clear memories of doing work up on the ship. And I'm aware of when I'm up there, I don't feel any different to when I'm down here as far as experiencing emotion. I can feel anger, I can feel fear, I can feel love, I can feel sympathy, I can feel all those things. But they're at a higher vibrational frequency. And there's not the polarity up there that there is down here. So this is really, really hard to put into three-dimensional language. This is the reason why people perceive that the Greys don't have emotion, because we express emotion at a higher frequency. Also, we don't have the musculature in those faces to be able to express emotion like an Earth human can. But yes, they are experienced. but they're not as controlling. We control our emotions. They don't control us. That's really the key to what I'm trying to say. When I'm in that state.
And I have to agree with every Zeta I have ever met. We are some of the most emotional people.
They can be. They can.
We're not robots. We're not any of those things that other people try to describe. I'm like, have you really ever met a Zeta? You know?
There's an episode that I always remember. I always talk about this in interviews, but I know I'm repeating myself for some people, but there are people who'll be tuning in who won't have heard it. I always remember up on the ship one night, I had work to do on an Earth Human Man, and I walked into the clinic room where he was lying on the table, and he turned around. He was sort of half paralysed, but he was able to turn his eyes and see me come in. And the look of sheer horror on his face was just awful. And I remember actually feeling sick in the stomach. I know, it was like, oh, my God, you know, and I was trying to communicate with him, look, we're not going to hurt you, we're not going to hurt you. And I could see, because he was wrapped in this cocoon of fear, he couldn't pick up on what I was saying. And I can bring that emotion back right now talking about it, how frustrated I felt and how sad because we were trying to help him. He actually had an implant in his head that had been put in by the negative group down here, and that was why he was up on the ship. We were going to remove this implant from his head, and I can distinctly remember doing it. But I can remember the emotion I went through. And then after that, when I was actually removing the implant from his head, I remember having a little laugh to myself because he had a very distinctive facial feature, a very distinctive beard. And I remember thinking to myself, gee, if I ever meet you down on planet Earth, mate, I'll remember you. And having a little laugh with the others while we were working. So, yeah, I can remember those emotions really clearly.
Yes, I don't have a lot of onboard memory ship. I definitely take the shots of non-remembrance.
The other thing you're probably aware of that a lot of people aren't, the Greys have a terrific sense of humour. We sort of joke and tease with each other all the time. A little bit black, it can be a little bit black, the humour. It's a little bit like paramedics, you know, that's how we keep ourselves going. We make jokes all the time.
Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree with that. Okay, from an ET perspective, do you have any advice on future technology on Earth?
Yes. Quantum physics is opening up a much deeper understanding on the incredible potential of the human mind. It's consciousness. That's the key to future technology. The negative ones down here are already aware of this, which is why they continue to create so much fear on Earth, including quite, brainwashing techniques and, like a mindset of neediness. We create our own reality through our own mind. So, therefore, if we want to create a better world, we have to start thinking in that way. But because consciousness is the key to technology with the ETs, we're able to, how can I say, consciously link into many more beings than people down here realise they can. What people need to realise is there's consciousness at all levels of creation, not just humans and even animals. I mean, okay, we accept that animals can have consciousness, but there's also consciousness at the level of plants and rocks and minerals and things like that. So this is what ET technology is based on, being able to link into the consciousness of whatever the material is being used. Like they talk about, there was a term they used to do with some of the material that was found from the Roswell crash. I'm just trying to think of it. It was like mindful metal. I can't remember the term they used, but it was like the metal that the disc was made out of had a mind of its own, had a consciousness of its own. Our ships have a consciousness of their own, and this is where technology needs to go. Now, the Lurans used crystal ships, and I'm quite certain that probably even Pleiadians have those as well. Do the Greys have those? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yep. Yes, crystal technology as well, but even the metal is it has a consciousness of its own. Right. Metal and crystal is sometimes used together in the creation of a ship. The ships are actually grown. They're not manufactured, they're grown.
what I've heard from other ET type of, I guess I hate to categorize it like the Pleiadians and the Ryans or whatever. Yeah, say the very similar things as well.
Yeah. And, what I was trying to think of was memory metal. They refer to it as memory metal.
Yeah. And I think this will bring us back down to our original inhabitants down here on Earth, in the sense that they too believe everything has a consciousness that is part of the history of this planet.
Oh, yes. And again, the tribal people understand that, which is how they can communicate with animals, etc.
So is there an actual seat that you sit in when you're on disc?
Yes, sometimes. Some have seats, some not. Generally, yes, we sit on a seat and we have like a control panel in front of us. We place our hands on that and we actually connect with the ship, palm to like our palms onto this panel. It's linked into our chakra system. Our consciousness is linked into the ship's consciousness. We also have, I don't know if you've ever experienced up on the ship, we have like healing beds. They're in all our quarters. And when we come off duty from a shift, we can go and lie down on this bed, and it fits itself exactly to the shape of our body. We also have chairs the same way, and they have the effect of defragging our consciousness, because, I mean, the work we do can be fairly stressful, and sometimes you come off a shift, you do need to do this. Also, those of us who are living down here, when we go onto the ship, we normally spend time on either one of the beds or one of the healing chairs just to get our energy system back in balance again from being down here. But yes, that's what we do when we're driving a ship. We actually practice a type of Qigong technique before we go on board to, again, bring our energy system into a state of balance and oneness. And in that way, we prepare ourselves. It's like a pre-flight exercise. And we prepare ourselves then for when we go on the ship to be able to link into the consciousness of the ship. And this is done through the heart meridian by placing our hands onto this panel. And of course, the heart meridians come down the arms into the palms of the hands. A slight example of this on Earth, but it's not as powerful, is when you're giving a person hands-on healing, Reiki, things like that. That's linked into that.
That's beautiful. So I'm going to invite you into the hot seat. This is a fill-in-the-blank question and answer to wrap up our interview. So, Judy, are you willing to sit in the hot seat?
I sure am. I love a challenge.
I know, we do. On our Earth transition, it will be crucial for all of us to hold steady in our truth. What is your truth?
My truth is choosing love over fear and linking into oneness.
If Zetas are not here to save humanity, what empowering message do you offer others?
Okay, people need to empower themselves. Don't get sucked into all the fear and drama. Know that you have God within, and so you have all the power.
I think that's what you said, like with Mahatma Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world. I think that is where we're headed. I'd also like to, there's another quote that I like, which is, you cannot be the light and hold another person in darkness. In closing, if you would like to know more about Judy and her work, including her 3 books, The Zeta Message, Human by Day and Zeta by Night, and her latest book, Extraterrestrial Presence on Lessons in History, please visit her websites, UFOgrayinfo.com and thezetamessage.com. And I want to thank Judy for being my guest today. It's been an absolute pleasure to share this time with you. Just a fun exchange between 2 grays to share information that most people don't get an opportunity to hear.
Oh, it's been an honor to speak with you, Althea, and to share this information with everybody.
Thank you, Judy. Until next time, bye, everyone.